Turning 30 should have felt like a milestone, a moment to reflect and celebrate, but for me it was just a stark reminder of how alone I'd become. I planned a small gathering, nothing extravagant, just a cozy night at my favorite bar, a few close family members, some light drinks, and a simple cake. I sent the invites a week in advance, hoping for at least a handful of loved ones to show up. As the hours ticked by, the bar's warm amber lights blurred through the glass and my phone screen remained stubbornly dark. I arrived early, dressed in my favorite button-down, nerves tingling. 7:00 p.m. came and went, then 8:00. I kept telling myself they were just running late. I ordered a whiskey, the glass cool and comforting in my palm, and cut a small slice from the cake, hoping someone would walk in any moment, breaking the awkward solitude. The bartender, a bearded guy with a sympathetic face, offered a nod. "You good, man?" he asked, his tone cautious. I forced a half smile. "Yeah, just waiting on a few people." By 9:00 it was clear. No one was coming. I lingered a while longer, picking at the cake I had barely touched, each bite growing heavier. The pitying glances from the other patrons only deepened the hollow ache in my chest. When I finally gave up and headed home, the night air felt colder than usual. My phone buzzed a few times on the walk back, but each alert was just automated birthday messages from apps I'd forgotten I had. Not a single text from my family. The following week, I tried to bury the sting of that empty night. Work helped, burying myself in spreadsheets and deadlines, anything to distract from the gnawing hurt. Then a message from my mother lit up my screen during a meeting. I swiped it open, half expecting a belated birthday text. Instead, it read, "Hey everyone, Dad's 50th birthday party's coming up. We've booked the seaside resort and it's going to be a night to remember. $1,800 per person. Please transfer the amount by Friday. Love you all." I blinked at the message, my chest tightening. No mention of my birthday, no apology for missing the party. Just a demand for nearly $2,000. Before I could even process it, my sister chimed in on the group chat. "Already sent, Mom, can't wait. Dad will love it." Then my brother? "Same here. Looking forward to it." I sat there gripping my phone, my heart racing. I had barely managed to scrape together the funds for my own party, and now they wanted me to fork over a small fortune. Without a second thought, I felt something snap, a quiet, steely anger bubbling up. I didn't even get a single happy birthday, but they had no problem reaching into my pocket for Dad's grand celebration. I opened my Venmo, typed in a single dollar, and sent it to my mother with the note, "Congratulations." Then, without another thought, I changed the locks on my apartment, blocked every family number in my contacts, and took a deep, grounding breath. For the first time in years, I felt a flicker of control. 2 days later, an alert pinged my phone. Someone had tried to access the joint account I shared with my sister. I laughed, the sound bitter and sharp in the stillness of my kitchen. Of course. I closed the account, moved the remaining balance into a new private one, and logged out with a sense of finality. Not even an hour later, my sister's number, now unfamiliar thanks to the block, flashed on my screen. I ignored it. Then came a second, third, fourth call from different numbers. Each time I declined without hesitation. That evening, just as I was settling in with a cold beer and an old favorite movie, a heavy, rapid knock shattered the calm. I froze, the sound echoing through my small apartment. I crept to the door, heart pounding, and peered through the peephole. 2 police officers stood on the other side, their expressions a mix of concern and irritation. I hesitated before opening the door a crack. "Can I help you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Sir, we received a report about a missing person." "Are you Kevin Grant?" the taller officer asked, flipping open a small notepad. I felt a cold wave wash over me. "Yeah, that's me, but I'm not missing. I'm right here." The shorter officer leaned in slightly. "Your family reported you missing. They said they haven't been able to reach you for days and were concerned." I couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped. "Oh, they're concerned now. Did they mention they tried to drain my account 2 days ago?" The officers exchanged a glance, their confusion clear. I sighed, leaning against the doorframe. "Look, I'm fine. I just blocked them. That's not a crime." The taller one scribbled something in his notepad. "Understood, sir. Just wanted to make sure you're safe." "I am, believe me." They hesitated for a moment, then stepped back. "All right, just let us know if this escalates." The shorter one added a slight edge to his tone. As they walked away, I shut the door, leaning my forehead against the cool wood. My pulse still raced, the surreal absurdity of it all settling like a weight in my chest. They had actually tried to make me a ghost in my own life. And for what control money? I took another deep breath, let it out slowly, and downed the rest of my beer. This was far from over. The days following the police visit were a strange mix of relief and unease. I had cut my family off, blocked every number, and even locked down my finances. Yet a quiet dread lingered. I knew my family well enough to understand that they wouldn't just let this go. It started with small things, a couple of unknown numbers lighting up my phone, a few emails slipping past my spam filter. I ignored them, focusing on my work and trying to rebuild a life without the constant drain of family drama. But the silence didn't last. A few nights later, I was halfway through a late-night binge of an old sitcom when my phone buzzed aggressively on the coffee table. Unknown number. I let it ring out, but a text followed immediately. "Mom, Kevin, this is ridiculous. We need to talk. Your father is devastated. Call us." I tossed the phone aside, staring at the screen with a bitter chuckle. They had the nerve to play the guilt card after everything. I let the phone buzz again this time. A text from my sister, Emily. "You really think you can cut us off like this? You're being a child. Grow up." I felt my jaw tighten. This was classic Emily, demanding, dismissive, always the one to push my buttons without a hint of self-awareness. I tossed the phone onto the couch and grabbed a beer from the fridge, the cold glass a small comfort against the rising anger in my chest. For the next few days, I drowned myself in work, hitting the gym more often, catching up with friends I had let drift. Life felt lighter, like I had finally cut the anchor that had been dragging me down for years. Then came the knock. It was late, the kind of hour where unexpected visitors usually mean bad news. I peered through the peephole, heart racing. There, on the other side, stood my sister, her face a tight mask of anger. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the door handle. Part of me wanted to just ignore her, but another part, the one still aching from years of silent resentment, wanted to hear what nonsense she had come to spew this time. I cracked the door open just enough to meet her eyes. "What do you want, Emily?" My voice came out colder than I intended, but I didn't care. She stepped back, clearly not expecting me to answer. "You're seriously doing this? Blocking us, cutting everyone off like some kind of psychopath?" I felt a sharp, bitter laugh bubble up. Psychopath. Because I don't want to be used anymore. Because I got tired of being the family ATM. Her jaw clenched, a flash of genuine hurt crossing her face. "Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. Mom's been crying every night. You're breaking this family, Kevin." I leaned against the doorframe, the cold air from the hallway creeping in around us. "No, Emily. I'm not breaking anything. I'm just done playing the part you all wrote for me." She sputtered, clearly struggling to come up with a comeback. "You can't just shut us out. We're family." I felt my pulse hammering in my ears. "Family? Is that what you call it when you ignore my birthday but hit me up for cash the next week? Is that what you call it when you try to access my accounts without asking? That's not family. Emily, that's a scam." Her eyes narrowed, the anger giving way to something colder. "You'll regret this. One day you'll come crawling back begging for our forgiveness." I smirked, letting the door close slowly. "Don't hold your breath." The door clicked shut, cutting off whatever spiteful parting shot she might have had. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood, my pulse still racing, the quiet of my apartment suddenly deafening. As I walked back to my couch, my phone buzzed again. I almost ignored it, but the message preview caught my eye. "Bank alert, unauthorized attempt to access joint account." I sank onto the couch, my head in my hands, a bitter laugh echoing through the empty room. They still didn't get it. They still thought I was the same naive son, the same spineless brother, but I wasn't. Not anymore. The days after Emily's doorstep ambush felt like a tightrope, walk over a chasm of old wounds. I kept my head down, pushed through work, and tried to ignore the growing ache in my chest. But the texts kept coming, each one a reminder that my family wasn't just letting this go. "Mom, we raised you, Kevin. This is how you repay us, Dad. Son, you need to come to your senses. Family is everything. Emily. You're really going to throw us away like this? Pathetic." I muted the numbers, blocked a few more, and poured myself deeper into my work. My workouts, anything to keep my mind off the festering mess of family drama. But the breaking point came one rainy Thursday afternoon. I had just wrapped up a tense client call when my phone vibrated on the desk. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something in me said to pick it up. "Hello," I said, half expecting another angry rant from Emily. "Mr. Grant." The voice was sharp, professional. "This is Leslie from First National Mortgage. We've received a request to modify the mortgage on a property under your name." I just need to confirm a few details before we proceed. My heart plummeted. The only property I had my name on was my parents' house, the one I had co-signed for years ago as a naive show of loyalty. Wait, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. What modification? She hesitated, clearly thrown off by my tone. It's a refinancing request, sir. They're looking to pull out a significant amount of equity. I felt my grip tighten around the phone, the cool plastic digging into my palm. Who submitted this request? There was a pause, the faint sound of keys clicking in the background. It's under your parents' names, but since you're a co-signer, we need your approval to proceed. I took a slow, deep breath. The betrayal cutting deeper than I had expected. They hadn't just tried to drain my joint account, they were trying to use my name to dig themselves out of their financial hole without so much as a conversation. Decline it, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. And lock down the account. No changes without my explicit approval. Leslie cleared her throat, clearly sensing the tension. Understood, Mr. Grant. I'll update our records accordingly. I hung up my hand, shaking a bitter cocktail of anger and betrayal flooding my veins. I had been prepared for petty games, maybe some passive-aggressive guilt trips, but they were trying to leverage my name to save themselves. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the rain streaking my office window, the city beyond, blurred and gray. They wanted a war fine. I'd give them one. I spent the next few hours calling every financial institution I had, ties to locking down every account, setting up two-factor authentication, changing every password. Then I went further. I called my lawyer. John, I said, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. I want to sell my share of the house. I want it out of my name as soon as possible. He paused, clearly caught off guard. You realize this will force them to either buy you out or sell the house, right? That could get messy. Messy is fine, I replied, a hint of a bitter smile tugging at my lips. I'm done being their safety net. He sighed, the sound crackling over the line. All right, I'll draft the paperwork. I hung up the line, going dead in my ear, but the anger didn't fade. If they wanted to play this game, they were about to find out just how high the stakes could get. I leaned back in my chair, the cold leather pressing against my shoulders, and stared at the ceiling. The memories of all the sacrifices, the small humiliations, the constant drain on my time and money swirled in my mind like smoke. They had always counted on my loyalty, my fear of being the bad son, the black sheep. But that fear was gone, now replaced by a sharp, unyielding clarity. I wasn't just cutting them off. I was taking back my life. The following week felt like a slow unraveling, each day peeling back another layer of betrayal I had buried for years. I had cut them off financially, secured my accounts, and set the wheels in motion to remove my name from their mortgage. But it still felt like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then it came. I was sitting at my desk, half listening to a podcast while grinding through spreadsheets, when my phone lit up with a notification from my bank. Fraud alert. Unusual login attempt detected. Your account is temporarily locked. I felt a chill creep down my spine. I opened the banking app, my heart racing as I scrolled through the recent activity. There it was, multiple failed login attempts, each one a blatant, desperate attempt to break into my finances. I locked my phone, clenching my fists until my knuckles turned white. They were still at it, trying to claw their way into my accounts like vultures, despite everything I had done to cut them off. For a moment, I just sat there, the familiar burn of rage flaring in my chest, the years of resentment simmering just beneath the surface. Then slowly, a plan began to take shape, cold and sharp like a blade being forged. I opened my laptop, pulled up my financial records, and started making a list. Every bill I had paid, every emergency loan I had covered, every whispered plea for just a little help I had foolishly agreed to. As I compiled the numbers, my anger sharpened into something more precise, more dangerous. I wasn't just going to cut them off. I was going to make them pay for every last cent they had siphoned from me over the years. When the list was complete, I fired off an email to my lawyer. Subject: financial audit request. Body: John. I need a full audit of every dollar I've paid to my family over the past 5 years. Mortgage payments, car loans, wedding contributions, tuition fees, everything. I want it itemized with dates and amounts. Prepare the documentation for a formal demand. Thanks, Kevin. I hit send, my pulse still hammering, a dark satisfaction creeping in. They had taken my loyalty for granted, treated me like an endless well of resources, and now they were going to see exactly what that loyalty had cost me. Later that evening, as I poured myself a drink and watched the city lights flicker through my apartment windows, my phone buzzed again. Emily. What the hell, Kevin? Why is the mortgage account locked? You're screwing us over. I stared at the message, my lip curling into a bitter smile. They were starting to feel the squeeze, the slow, inevitable tightening of the noose they had so carelessly woven around themselves. Me, I'm just protecting my interests. You should try it sometime. Seconds later, another message came through. Dad, son, we need to talk. Don't make this worse than it already is. I tossed the phone onto the couch, leaning back into the cool leather with a deep, steadying breath. They thought they could keep using me, that I would fold the moment they pushed back. But they were wrong. This time, I wasn't just defending myself, I was hitting back. I took another sip of my drink, the sharp burn grounding me, and closed my eyes. The game had only just begun. The silence that followed my audit request felt like the eye of a storm. For a few days, my phone stayed quiet. No frantic texts, no guilt-laden voicemails. I almost let myself believe they had finally given up, that my family had accepted the boundaries I had set. But then, just as I was beginning to enjoy the calm, a letter arrived. Thick, formal, with my father's neat, controlled handwriting on the front. I hesitated, my thumb tracing the edge of the envelope. For a second, I considered just tossing it into the trash, but something about its weight made me pause. I ripped it open, the sharp tear echoing in my small apartment. Inside was a single sheet of paper, the words written in my father's steady, measured script. Kevin, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this needs to stop. We are a family, and families support each other. You can't just walk away and leave us hanging like this. Your mother is a wreck. Your sister is beside herself, and I can't even look at my own house without feeling like it's slipping through my fingers. This isn't how we raised you. You're better than this. Be the son we know you can be. Dad? I stared at the letter, my jaw tightening with each line. Be the son they knew I could be. The son they had molded into their personal ATM, their emotional punching bag, their convenient safety net. I tossed the letter onto the coffee table, the pages fluttering like the remnants of a bridge I had just set on fire. I picked up my phone and typed out a response before I could second-guess myself. Me? You want me to be the son you raised? The one who bails you out? Picks up the pieces and puts himself last every time. Sorry, but that version of me doesn't exist anymore. I hit send, the sound of the message whooshing into the digital void, a strangely satisfying punctuation mark on my decision. I spent the rest of the day locked in a strange, simmering calm. My phone buzzed a few times, calls from my parents, a couple of texts from Emily, but I ignored them, pouring my energy into work, pushing through project deadlines like a man possessed. Then late that night, as I was finally winding down with a movie, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from John, my lawyer. John. Hey Kevin, the audit is ready. It's a lot. They owe you over $150,000. We can proceed with the formal demand whenever you're ready. Just let me know. I leaned back, the number ringing in my mind like a victory bell. $150,000. The sum total of every sacrifice, every missed opportunity, every dollar funneled into their bottomless pit of expectations. I typed a quick response. Me, proceed. I dropped the phone onto the couch, a slow, satisfied smile creeping across my face. They had used me for years, but the bill was finally coming due. 2 days after I gave my lawyer the green light, the real fallout began. The messages came first, panicked, desperate, and increasingly aggressive as the days wore on. Mom, Kevin, please. You can't do this to us. We're family. Dad, son, call me. Let's work this out like adults. Emily. I hope you're proud of yourself. You're ruining our lives. I ignored each one, the texts piling up like unread warnings before a storm. I knew my family well enough to realize they weren't just angry, they were scared. They had built their lives on the assumption that I would always be there to pick up the pieces, to cover the shortfalls, to be their silent financial savior. Then came the calls. Unknown numbers, blocked numbers, even a few from mutual family friends trying to play mediator. I let each one ring out, my resolve hardening with every missed call. Finally, the inevitable happened. My phone buzzed with a call from my lawyer, the calm, steady tone of his voice cutting through the tense silence of my apartment. Kevin, John said, his voice carrying a hint of grim satisfaction. They've hired a lawyer. They're trying to dispute the demand, but they don't have much ground to stand on. I'd say they're panicking. I felt a cold, fierce satisfaction bloom in my chest. Let them panic, I said, leaning back in my chair. I'm done playing nice. For the next week, the messages from my family took a darker tone. Guilt, anger, desperation. They tried every tactic in the book, pleading, gaslighting, emotional blackmail, but I held firm. I had spent too many years being their crutch, their fallback, and I wasn't about to break now. Then one night there was a knock at my door. I froze, my pulse quickening. I peered through the peephole, my heart sinking as I saw my father standing there. His shoulders slumped, a thin, desperate look in his eyes. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the doorknob. For a brief, foolish moment, I considered letting him in, hearing him out. But then I remembered the years of quiet betrayal, the countless sacrifices, the weight of their expectations pressing down on me like a stone. I stepped back, my heart pounding, and walked away from the door. The knocking continued, harder this time, my father's voice muffled but clear. "Kevin, come on, don't do this. We're family. We can work this out." I closed my eyes, the anger and hurt rising like a wave. Family. The word had become a hollow echo, stripped of its meaning, a weapon they had used to keep me in line for too long. I took a deep breath, my resolve hardening, and reached for my phone. I pulled up my lawyer's number and hit call. "John," I said as soon as he picked up. "Push forward with the demand. I want every cent they owe me." He hesitated, clearly hearing the edge in my voice. "Are you sure, Kevin? This could get ugly." I glanced back at the door, my father's voice still muffled through the wood, the desperate thud of his fist echoing in my mind. "I'm sure," I replied, my jaw set. They made their choice. Now they can live with it. I hung up, the finality of the decision settling over me like a cold, cleansing wave. As I sat back down, my father's voice faded, the knocking slowly dying away. I felt a strange, unfamiliar calm wash over me, a sense of liberation I hadn't felt in years. For the first time, I had chosen myself. I picked up my beer, took a long, slow sip, and let the silence fill the room. It tasted like freedom. Story 2. I showed up uninvited to Mother's Day lunch. Mom said, "Don't touch the food, just drink water." "Your sister paid $3,000, my sister added. "Beluga caviar isn't for people like you." I smiled. She drained my card for that meal. I reversed it. My parrot Ronnie squawked, "Call the lawyer." I left a letter on Mom's seat. She opened it. Froze. I canceled there and then. 47 missed calls hit my phone. I didn't even want to be there. But I showed up anyway. Walking into the sunlit restaurant with its polished marble floors and chandelier dripping fake luxury Mother's Day lunch. The kind of show my family loved. Mom sat at the head of the table, her smile wide and bright until she saw me. "Oh, you're here." Her voice was a little too sharp, a little too forced. I hadn't been invited. Not really. Victoria, my sister, had organized the whole thing. A fancy lunch with imported beluga caviar, fresh oysters, and crystal glasses filled with sparkling water. I knew because I saw the receipt. $3,000 charged to my card. The same card she'd borrowed just for a few essentials. A week ago. I walked to the table trying to keep my face calm. "Mom." Smile twitched. "Don't touch the food. Just drink water. Your sister paid." Victoria's laughter was a soft, cruel melody. "Beluga caviar isn't for people like you." I stared at her. Victoria dressed in a designer blouse. I'd probably paid for, leaning back in her chair with that familiar smirk, the one she always wore when she thought she'd won it. But she didn't know. Not yet. I pulled out my chair and sat down. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. Instead, I glanced at the sparkling crystal, the towers of seafood, the delicate silver cutlery. I leaned back just like Victoria. "Actually, I think I will have something to eat," I said, reaching for a silver spoon. I took a delicate scoop of the dark, glistening caviar, letting it shimmer in the light. Victoria's smile faltered. "Don't you dare, I paid for this." "That's $3,000 off." "No," I interrupted, letting the word hang in the air. "You didn't." "I did. Or rather, my car did." Silence crashed over the table. Mom's face turned a sickly pale, her fingers tightening around her glass. Victoria's jaw clenched. "You think you're clever," she hissed. "You think you can just show up here and make everything about you." I smiled, letting her rage build. "Clever enough to reverse the charges yesterday. So technically you're having lunch on my charity." Her face twisted, red blotches blooming on her cheeks. "You wouldn't dare." "Oh, I would," I said, taking another delicate bite. "And that's not all." I leaned over to Mom, sliding an envelope onto her plate. She opened it, her eyes scanning the printed text. The cancellation confirmation for their $8,500 vacation. Her hands started to shake. "No," she whispered. "Oh yes," I said, leaning back. "Happy Mother's Day." Suddenly, a sharp voice shattered the thick silence. My parent Ronnie perched comfortably on my shoulder, squashed with perfect clarity. "Call the lawyer." A ripple of shock spread through the table. Some guests turned to stare. Others tried to hide their smirks. Victoria's face drained of color, her mouth hanging open. My phone vibrated again, 1, 2, 10 times. I didn't need to check to know it was already starting. The chaos, the rage, the panic. I stood up, brushing invisible crumbs from my sleeves. "Well, I'd love to stay, but I think you all have a lot to discuss." Victoria lunged to her feet. "You don't matter as much as you think. You're just—" I didn't hear the rest. I was already walking away, letting the noise fade behind me. Let them scream. Let them fight. Let them finally see that I wasn't just a tool, a credit card. A silent presence to be mocked and drained as I stepped outside. The sun felt warmer, the air fresher. My phone kept buzzing. Calls, texts, desperate messages. I turned it off. They would understand soon enough. When I got home after that circus at the restaurant, my phone was already burning with notifications. The first call was from Mom, then another, and another. I tossed the phone onto the couch and just stared at it like it was a bomb about to explode. But that was just the beginning. 5 minutes later, it rang again. This time it was Dad. His voice was roar with anger. "What have you done? You humiliated your mother and your sister? Do you think this is funny?" I didn't answer. I just listened, letting his rage spill out. "You're going to pay us back for that lunch. You ruined our vacation. Your mother is crying. She can barely breathe." I ended the call without a word. The phone went quiet for just a few seconds before messages started pouring in. One after another, like a broken, "Damn, Mom. How could you do this? I raised you better. You ruined our special day. Victoria, you're impossible. You've always been jealous of me. You love destroying everything, Dad. Ungrateful person. If you don't fix this, you're done." I leaned back, listening to the frantic buzzing, watching the screen light up and die down. I felt nothing, no guilt, no regret. Just a strange, clear sense of calm. But they didn't stop. Calls from unknown numbers, voicemails, Mom sobbing, Dad screaming, Victoria shrieking about how I destroyed the family. Then the family chat lit up at Linda. "I can't believe you did this. Your poor mother, cousin James. Not cool, man. Family is everything. Uncle Rob? Your mom's heart can't take this kind of stress. Are you proud of yourself?" Proud. I almost laughed for the first time. I didn't feel like the helpless fool who would crawl back, apologize, and clean up their mess. I muted the chat, left the phone buzzing on the table, and made myself a cup of coffee. But as I stirred the sugar, and something twisted inside me. Not anger, not shame, something sharper, like a long-forgotten instinct, finally waking up. I sat down with my laptop, opened my banking app, and started scrolling through my statements. It didn't take long to see it. The charges. The endless list of expenses I never approved: Victoria's shopping sprees, spa treatments, designer bags, and of course the $3,000 lunch. But it went deeper. Charges I didn't even notice before. Car rentals, hotel bookings, even a $500 charge for some wellness retreat. My hands tightened on the mouse. I pulled up my email search for every confirmation she had forwarded me. Dozens of them. Victoria had been using my card for months, not just for essentials, but for everything. I kept digging, pulled out an old external hard drive, the one I hadn't touched in years. It was Victoria's before she upgraded. I remembered she used to save everything there, her backups, her photos, her messages. I plugged it in, and there it was, a folder called AFM. Inside, screenshots of chats, voice notes, even photos. Messages between Victoria and Mom planning how to use my money without me noticing. My mother's voice calm and sweet, saying, "Just tell him it's for something important. He always gives it." Another recording, Victoria's voice dripping with smug satisfaction. "He's such an fool. I just take what I want and he never even notices." My vision blurred for a second. My own mother, my own sister, laughing at me, using me. But I didn't feel hurt. I felt awake. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Dad. "Last chance. Send the money and we'll forget this ever happened." I smiled. And then I did something I never thought I would. I opened the family chat, I unmuted it, and I started typing. I know exactly what you did. I know everything. The stolen money, the lies, and I have proof. Do you want to see it?" The chat went silent. The typing bubbles appeared, then vanished. No one dared to speak. Then a single message from Mom. "We can talk this out, sweetheart. It's just a misunderstanding." "No," I replied, "it's not. But you'll understand soon." I closed the chat and went back to the hard drive. Screenshot after screenshot, voice memo after voice memo, I started organizing them. A neat little folder of betrayal. My phone rang again. "Dad." Again I let it ring and then I turned off the sound. Feeling something cold and sharp settle in my chest. If they wanted a game, I would show them exactly how I played. I didn't have to wait long. When the knock came, I took a deep breath, reached for the door handle, and opened it. Mom, Dad, and Victoria stood in the hallway. Mom's face was a careful mask of concern. Dad looked like he was ready for a fight in Victoria. Well, she looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Come in," I said calmly, stepping aside. They walked in, and immediately, my parrot Ronnie fluffed his green feathers and let out a cheerful squawk. "Call the lawyer." Mom shot me a glare. "Is that thing still here? Ronnie's part of the family?" I said, closing the door. "Please take a seat." They settled onto the couch, all three squished together like a jury about to pass judgment. Dad cleared his throat. "Let's not waste time. You need to apologize for that disgusting scene you caused. You embarrassed us." "I embarrassed you?" I asked, leaning against the kitchen counter. "Interesting. Let's talk about that." I reached for the first folder I had prepared, pulled out a stack of printed bank statements and tossed them onto the coffee table. Recognized these, Mom's eyes narrowed. Victoria leaned forward and her face paled. "Those are my transactions," she stammered. "No, Victoria. They were my transactions on my card. Your spades, your designer bags, your little getaway weekends, all of it." "Did you honestly think I wouldn't notice it was an accident?" she snapped. "I thought it was my card. It's an honest mistake." "Honest mistake?" I smiled, feeling something cold settle in my chest. "Ronnie, what do we think of that liar?" "Caught you now," squawked Ronnie, hopping excitedly on his perch. "Shut that stupid bird up," Victoria hissed. "I think he's being honest," I replied, "and it's about time we all were." I pulled out the second folder screenshots of her chats with Mom, the ones where they planned to use my card without me knowing where. Mom reassured her. "You won't notice. And even if he does, he won't do anything." Mom's face went white. That was just... We were joking." "Joking?" I repeated, letting the word hang in the air. "Ronnie, was it a joke?" "Joke, no. Scam? Yes," squawked Ronnie, his voice cutting through the thickening tension. Dad leaned forward, his knuckles turning white. "You think you're so smart? Digging up dirt like some detective, that doesn't change the fact that you owe us. Family sticks together. Family sticks together." I laughed when you drained my bank account, when you used my card for a $3,000 lunch without inviting me. Or maybe when you planned a vacation with my money and didn't even bother to tell me. Silence. Victoria tried to speak, but I raised a hand. "Not done. See, I've had enough. Enough of being the family wallet. Enough of being lied to. Enough of being your joke." Mom's voice was desperate now. We were just trying to keep the family happy. You've always had more. You never needed it as much as we did." "More." I stepped forward, letting each word drop like a stone. "You mean the life I worked for, the money I earned, the peace I tried to build?" Ronnie fluttered his wings. "No peace, just noise." Victoria's face twisted. "You're just bitter because nobody cares about you." "No, Victoria. I'm bitter because I cared too much." I reached for the final envelope, the one with the letter from the bank. I tossed it onto the table. "By the way, I canceled your credit cards, Mom. Your automatic payments for the house. Gone. Dad, your little retirement fund. You kept trying to siphon through my account. Blocked." "Why, you can't do that." Mom's voice broke. "We will lose everything." Ronnie cocked his head. "Beggars can't be choosers. Listen here, you little troublemaker." Dad finally exploded. standing up, his fist clenched. But I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. "Sit down," I said, my voice like steel. "This is my house. You came here to talk, so talk." Dad's anger wavered. He glanced at Mom, who was already tearing up, then at Victoria, who just left, stunned. Mom clutched at her chest, her voice shaking. "We're family. Family helps each other." "No, Mom," I said, leaning forward. "Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't use one member as a walking ATM and then left behind their back." So much drama. "Wow," Ronnie cheered, clearly enjoying the show. Victoria's phone buzzed and she glanced down, probably hoping for an escape. "Don't even think about it," I said. "You're not leaving until we're done." "You've gone too far," Victoria screamed. "You think this is revenge? You think you're teaching us a lesson?" "No, I'm teaching myself one." I replied that I don't know any of you anything. Mom broke into sobs, leaning against Dad, who just looked defeated. I almost felt a pang of pity. Almost. But Ronnie beat me to it, fake tears. "Bye-bye." He squawked, spreading his wings and doing a little dance on his perch. I walked to the door and opened it wide. "You're done here." "We're done, son. Please, Dad," whispered, his voice weak. I shook my head. "I was your son when you thought I was an easy target. Now I'm just the problem. You couldn't hide." They stood stumbling over themselves, trying to find some last words, some final excuse. But nothing came. They filed out the door, broken and silent. I closed the door, and for a moment there was only quiet. Then Ronnie ruffled his feathers, looked at me with his beady little eyes and croaked peace at last. "Tea, Master." I laughed, a real deep, freeing laugh. "Yeah, Ronnie," I said, walking to the kitchen. "Tea sounds perfect. I thought they would give up. I thought they'd disappear." Ashamed. Finally realizing I wasn't a fool. But of course they didn't. It started with the calls. Dozens of them. I ignored each one, then came the messages. "Mom, we need to talk." "Sweetheart, please. This is a misunderstanding." "Dad, you don't get to walk away like this." "Answer me." "Victoria, you're impossible to deal with. You ruined everything. I hope you finally understand how it feels to be alone." I blocked their numbers. Simple, clean. But they weren't done. Unknown numbers began lighting up my screen. Voicemails. Dad. Furious. 1 minute. Weeping the next. Mom trying the guilty, loving mother act, saying I was breaking her heart. Victoria always vicious, always accusing, and then money. One morning I logged into my account and there it was, a refund. Thousands of dollars. The money they had drained the luxury lunches, the spa weekends, even the vacation I'd canceled. Piece by piece. The stolen funds trickled back in. They were trying to buy me back. Ronnie squawked from his perch. "Bribe. Bribe, cheap tricks." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. I could almost see them. Mom crying. Dad pacing. Victoria snarling that he'll come back if we just pay him back. But I didn't. I moved the refunded money to a separate account, left it there like a monument to their desperation, and I said nothing. The messages kept coming. "Mom, sweetheart, we sent the money back. That shows how much we care. Please talk to us, Dad. We're still your family. Do you think money is more important than family, Victoria? I knew you were a snake. All you care about is cash." "Cash?" I laughed. It was never about the money, it was about dignity, something they never had. I returned to my life, blocked their new numbers, left the family chat without a word, unfollowed them on every social platform. My world grew quieter, and they grew louder. My cousin Alex messaged me. "Dude, what is going on? Your mom's losing it. She says you've lost your mind." Aunt Linda called. "I just want you to know you can always talk to me, but your parents are suffering." Suffering, I almost pitied them. Almost. I changed my locks, set up 2-factor authentication on all my accounts, changed my email passwords. They were panicking, and I wouldn't put it past them to try something desperate. But I wasn't afraid. I was free. Every morning I woke up in my quiet apartment. I brewed my coffee, sat by the window, and watched the city wake up. No demands, no guilt, no phone calls sucking me dry. And Ronnie, well, Ronnie thrived. Guess what, no money? He chirped one morning dancing on his perch. Guess who's begging? Who, Ronnie? I grinned, sipping my coffee. Mommy, Daddy. Vicky. I burst out laughing. That little green-feathered troublemaker was my best friend now, the only voice from the past I didn't mind hearing. But the storm wasn't over. 3 weeks later, an email slipped into my inbox, my father trying a new tactic, a long, desperate letter. Son, please. We're struggling. We've refunded the money. Isn't that enough? Can't we move past this? Your mother's health is failing. Your sister is in a terrible state. You've proven your point. Please, let's be a family again. A family. They had no idea what that word meant. I didn't respond. A few days later, another email. This time, a copy of a transaction. They had sold some of their jewelry, scraping together even more money trying to show they were serious. I watched them fall apart from a distance. My aunt texted me mom and started looking for a job at a local supermarket. Dad tried to borrow money from Uncle Rob but was turned away. Victoria was calling up friends trying to find someone who would lend her money. But the best part, they were fighting each other. Mom blamed Dad for letting this happen. Dad accused Victoria of pushing him too far. Victoria screamed that they were all failures without my money. Poetic justice. One rainy afternoon, a message from an old high school friend, Jacob. Hey, heard about the family drama? Sorry, man. If you want a fresh start, I've got a project I'm working on. Could use someone reliable. A fresh start. Reliable. Words I hadn't heard in so long. They almost felt foreign, but I smiled. Sure, I'm interested. When I ended the call, I glanced at Ronnie. Looks like we're moving up, buddy. He fluffed his feathers. Moving up. Moving out. I ordered a new couch. Swapped out the old curtains for something brighter. My apartment began to look like a place where someone lived, not just survived. The next week, as I left for my first meeting with Jacob, I saw another message on my phone from a number I didn't recognize. Please answer. I miss you. I didn't even need to check the voice. Delete it as I walked out. The rain had stopped the sun piercing through the clouds for the first time in years. I didn't feel like I was running or hiding. I was free. Ronnie's voice echoed from the window behind me. Peace at last. Exactly. Ronnie, I muttered, grinning. Exactly. They never called again. No more desperate voicemails. No more fake apologies. Silence. The kind I used to fear. Now it felt like freedom. My apartment transformed. Light, color, laughter. Ronnie? My loud-mouthed little parrot danced on his perch, squawking. Free bird. No bugs. He wasn't just mocking them. He was right. Work thrived. Jacob and I launched the project and it took off. I wasn't just a wallet or a punchline. I was me, capable, respected, whole. Sometimes a faint ache stirred a whisper of guilt, wondering if I'd been too harsh. But then I remembered the empty promises, the stolen money, the mocking laughter behind my back. Family wasn't a bond. It was a burden I chose to set down. One day, a letter arrived. No return address. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I tossed it in the trash, and the only sound in the room was Ronnie's cheerful voice. Let go, fly free. And I did. Story 3. At our family Christmas dinner, I was told you can eat in the car. My brother smirked. Why would we waste a seat on you? I looked around. Everyone else had a seat at the table. Even my cousin who stole from me. So I picked up my gift, turned to my brother and said, check under your plate. I left, shutting the car door behind me. Mom called. Dad ran out. At our family Christmas dinner, I was told you can eat in the car. My brother Jacob smirked, leaning back in his chair. Why would we waste a seat on you? Laughter rippled around the table. Not loud, but enough. My mother looked down at her plate, pretending not to hear. My father cleared his throat, a flicker of discomfort crossing his face before he focused on his phone again. No one stood up for me. No one even looked at me. I stood there, a wrapped gift still in my hands. A gift I had carefully chosen for each of them. A gift I thought might make them see me differently this year. Right? I whispered, swallowing the burning in my throat. I looked around the table, every chair filled. Even my cousin Mark, who once stole from me, had a seat but me. I was told I didn't belong. Jacob, I called, forcing come into my voice. He looked up, still smirking. Check under your plate. His smile faltered. The room went quiet. A suffocating silence that seemed to stretch forever. Slowly, he lifted his plate. A crisp white envelope was taped beneath it. His brow furrowed, fingers hesitating before peeling it off. What's this? He muttered, tearing it open. His eyes widened as he read the smirk, vanishing, replaced by shock. My mother leaned over, trying to see, but Jacob's face went pale. You can explain that to everyone, I said, turning on my heel. Merry Christmas. I walked out, the sound of their startled voices following me as I shut the car door behind me. My phone burst. Mom was calling. A second later, another call, Dad, then a flood of notifications. I let them ring. They had told me I didn't belong. Now they were desperate to stop me from leaving, but I was done being their doormat. I didn't go home, not immediately. I drove. The Christmas lights of the neighborhood blurring as I tried to focus, tried to keep my hand steady on the wheel. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Mom, Dad, even Jacob. But I ignored them all. It wasn't just about Christmas. It was never just about Christmas. This had been coming for years, a slow, suffocating buildup. I've been too blind to see. I had always been the one who tried the hardest, the one who showed up, the one who paid. When Jacob and his wife Kelly had their first child, I was there with gifts, paying for the stroller they couldn't afford. When their second came, I covered the daycare costs because Kelly's part-time job barely paid for groceries. Every year, I bought the kids their school supplies, pitched in for summer camps, even covered their mortgage for 3 months when Jacob was between jobs. Because I was the good brother, the reliable one. But no one saw the cost. No one saw the nights I spent calculating how much I could give without falling behind on my own bills. No one saw the vacations I skipped, the things I denied myself because I thought that's what family did. But what did it matter to them? I was nothing but a walking wallet. And when I couldn't keep up, when I didn't do enough, I was a loser. My phone rang again. Mom. I gritted my teeth and picked it up. Now you call. I snapped, barely recognizing the edge in my own voice. Sweetheart, please come back. She pleaded, her voice shaky. We didn't mean it. Jacob was just upset. Upset? I laughed bitterly. You didn't seem upset when you told me I could eat in the car. It was just a joke. No, Mom. It wasn't a joke. It never is. I could hear Dad's voice in the background, grumbling something. You and Dad just sat there. Didn't say a word. Not one. Please come home. We can talk about this. Home, I barked. That's not my home. It's a place I visit to be humiliated. Silence. Then a faint whisper. Please don't do this. But I was already hanging up. The anger was boiling now. Years of silent resentment climbed to the surface. I turned the car around. No, I wasn't going home. Not yet. I was going back. I pulled up in front of their house, stormed out of the car, and banged on the door. It swung open, and there they were, Mom's eyes red and puffy. Dad's arms crossed defensively, and Jacob looking smug as ever, leaning against the wall. Back for another lecture, he sneered. No, I spat back for answers. I turned to Mom and Dad. Explain it to me. How did I become the joke of this family? How did I become the loser? My father sighed. Don't be dramatic. Jacob was just kidding. Kidding. I felt the heat rise in my chest. This isn't just about tonight. It's about everything. I've spent years paying your bills, covering for Jacob's mistakes, taking care of his family because he couldn't. I didn't ask you to, Jacob shot back. Arms still crossed. I didn't ask. I laughed, a wild, bitter sound. No, you didn't ask. You just expected it. And when I couldn't give enough, I became worthless. A loser. Jacob's smug look faltered. Look, if you're going to cry about a few bucks for a few bucks, I was shouting now. How much do you think I've given you, Jacob? Thousands. Tens of thousands, while you sat back doing nothing. And you, I pointed at Mom and Dad. You encouraged it, told me I was the responsible one, but when I needed support, silence. Stop yelling, Dad muttered. You're making a scene. Oh, I'm making a scene. I turned, grabbing the presents from the car. You know what, here. I threw the bags at Jacob's feet. Take them. The presents you didn't think I brought. His eyes widened as the bag spilled open. Toys, books, everything I had spent hours choosing. Kelly peeked out from the hallway, her face pale, her lips pressed tight. You didn't even look in the car, did you? I shouted. You just assumed I was worthless. Enough. Mom's voice cracked tears in her eyes. This is Christmas. Please just calm down. Calm down. I laughed again. That wild, bitter laugh. Fine. I'm calm, but I'm also done. Don't in your back. Don't being your punching bag. Don't pretending. This is a family. I stepped back, breathing hard, my heart pounding against my ribs. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Jacob. His voice, small now, tried to sneer. Yeah, walk away. You always do. I never walked away. I whispered, my voice shaking. I just never realized how little I mattered. I turned and left, slamming the door behind me. This time, I didn't look back. But as I got in the car, the exhaustion hit me. The years of giving, the endless sacrifices, the constant feeling of being nothing more than an afterthought. It crashed down on me like a wave. I wasn't just leaving their house. I was done being part of their lives. I didn't hear from them for 2 days. Not a single call, not a text. Silence. It was like I had vanished from their world. And for a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, they had understood. Maybe they had finally realized how badly they had hurt me. Maybe they were ashamed. But that was a fantasy. The truth hit like a wrecking ball the morning of the 3rd day when my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Jacob standing there, his face twisted with a mix of rage and desperation. His hair was a mess, and his eyes were bloodshot. You need to stop this, he snapped, shoving his way inside before I could even react. You can't just cut us off like this. Excuse me. I crossed my arms, leaning against the kitchen counter. Cut you off? You mean finally saying no to being your personal ATM? He glared at me, his voice rising. Don't be dramatic. You've always helped us. Always. You can't just stop. Oh, but I can. I kept my tone ice cold. You told me I could eat in the car. Remember that? Well, now you can figure out how to pay your own bills. Do you know what you're doing to us? Jacob's voice cracked. Kelly's panicking. The kids don't understand why they don't have presents, and Mom and Dad. They're losing it. Losing it? I laughed bitterly. The only thing they've lost is their free ticket to bleed me dry. You only think about yourself. Jacob exploded, his face turning red. We're a family. Families help each other. Help. I stepped forward, my voice rising to matches. You want to talk about help? I've paid for your kids' school supplies, covered your rent, even paid your mortgage at one point. I've been more of a father to your kids than you ever were. Jacob's fist clenched. You think you're so much better than me, don't you? I don't think I'm better. I shot back, but I do know I'm done being used. Used? He laughed, but it was a hollow, broken sound. You're acting like a victim. Poor you. Right? The rich brother who always had more, who always thought he was too good for the rest of us. More. I almost laughed again. You mean more debt, more sleepless nights wondering if I could cover your bills and still pay my own. More guilt every time I thought about saying no. I have kids, he shouted, his voice cracking. They're suffering because of you. No, they're suffering because of you, I said, leaning closer. Because you gambled away everything I gave you. His face went pale. What are you talking about? Oh, you really thought I wouldn't find out? I smirked, but there was no joy in it. Did you think Kelly wouldn't get suspicious or that she wouldn't find the bank statements? The secret account you used to hide money? Jacob's eyes widened. What? What are you talking about? Stop pretending, I snapped, pulling out my phone. I had the screenshot saved, the copies Kelly's lawyer had shown me. Gambling sites, expensive restaurants, hotel stays. All while I thought I was helping you feed your kids. You don't know what you're talking about. His voice was desperate now, his hands shaking. Really, I shoved the phone in his face. Then explain this. Thousands of dollars. My money gone. And Kelly, she's done. She's already talking to a lawyer. Jacob's jaw clenched. His eyes darted around the room looking for a way out. You did this. You turned her against me. No. I whispered, feeling the weight of years of frustration pressing down on me. You did this. You destroyed your family. You used me. And now you're facing the consequences. For a moment, he just stood there breathing heavily, his face pale. And then something snapped. He lunged forward, grabbing my shirt. You think you can just walk away, he screamed, spittle flying. You think you're done. You owe me. We're family. Family means you don't get to just walk away. I shoved him off, his grip breaking as he stumbled backward. Family. You don't get to preach about family. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't lie. Family doesn't use you and then call you a loser when you can't give enough. Get out, I said, my voice calm. Deadly. Get out of my house, I'll tell Mom and Dad. He sneered, his voice shaking. They'll know you ruined everything. You'll be the outcast. Not me. I laughed. A cold, bitter sound. Oh, you really think they're on your side? Go ahead. Tell them. But when Kelly's lawyer calls them to testify when the truth comes out, you'll be the one who destroyed this family. He stared at me, frozen. And for the first time in my life, I saw fear in his eyes. Last chance. Jacob, I said, stepping aside and pointing to the door. Get out and don't ever come back. His lips trembled, but he turned, storming out, slamming the door behind him so hard the wall shook for a moment. I stood there, breathing hard, the adrenaline pulsing through my veins, and then quiet. A heavy, crushing quiet that settled over the room. My phone buzzed again. A message from Kelly. Thank you. I didn't know how to face him alone. I stared at the screen. A strange mix of relief and sadness twisting in my chest. I had lost my brother, but maybe I never really had him. The weight I had carried for years was gone. But now in the cold silence of my empty house, I wondered if I had made a mistake. But no. This was their choice. Their betrayal. I had only done what I should have done years ago. I was done saving them. I didn't answer their calls. Not Mom's tearful voicemails, not Dad's gruff demands, and definitely not Jacob's furious texts. For the first time in years, I didn't know them anything. Not my time, not my money, not even an explanation. But on the fourth day of silence, the pounding on my front door shattered that peace. I didn't have to look through the people. I knew who it was. Jacob's voice was muffled but furious. Open the door. You coward? I opened it, leaning casually against the frame. Make it quick. I'm busy. His face twisted with rage and he shoved his way inside, his fists clenched. You think you can just walk away? Leave us all hanging because you're having a tantrum. No, I said, shutting the door behind him. I didn't walk away. I took back everything you stole from me. Stole? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think I stole from you? You gave that money over and over. You love being the hero. I love my family, I corrected. But you're not family. You've taken advantage of me for too long. His face went red, his fist tightening. Don't talk to me like that. I'll talk to you however I want, especially now that I know where all that money really went. I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a cold whisper. Gambling. Jacob, did you really think you could hide it forever? His face drained of color. You have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, I have a perfect idea, I said, pulling out my phone and opening the screenshots from Kelly's lawyer. Make statements, secret accounts, thousands of dollars. My money wasted while I thought I was feeding your kids, covering your bills. You went through my accounts, he shouted, panic mixing with anger. Kelly did, and she showed me everything. You've always thought you were better than me. Say it, I snapped, stepping forward. Go ahead, say it. But it won't change anything. It won't change the fact that I can't trust you anymore. You've broken our trust. His hand shot out, but I stepped back, his fingers grazing empty air. Shut up, but I didn't flinch. If you think I'm wrong, explain yourself. Show everyone who you really are for a second. His jaw clenched, his fist trembling for a moment, but then he stepped back, his breathing heavy. I needed that money, he screamed. You don't understand. The bills, the stress. Kelly? Kelly! I laughed bitterly. She's divorcing you. She knows everything. You destroyed your family, just like you tried to destroy mine. His eyes widened, his breathing frantic. No, she wouldn't. She already has. I stepped closer, my voice ice cold. And here's the best part. I'm done. But I'm not just walking away. I'm taking back every penny I gave you. What, you heard me. I pulled a thick folder from the table and tossed it onto the couch. A full list of everything I ever paid for you. Your rent, your groceries, your kids' school fees, even the money for your mortgage, all of it. I have the receipts, and my lawyer agrees. I have grounds to sue you for fraud. You're bluffing, he shouted. But there was a crack in his voice, a tremor of fear. Am I? I pulled out another sheet of formal letter already signed. Consider this an ultimatum. You pay back every cent I gave you, $42,500, or I take you to court. And believe me, with Kelly's testimony, you'll lose. His knees seemed to buckle, his face pale as ash. You can't. I don't have that money. Sell your car, sell your furniture, sell your stubborn pride. I don't care. You've got 2 weeks. I'll tell Mom and Dad. He shrieked, desperation twisting his face. Do it, I shrugged. They can pay for you if they want. But I'm not their bank anymore either. He stood there, trembling, his breath coming in ragged gasps. You can't do this, please, please. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything, I said, opening the door. I'm just taking back what you stole. And then, as if on cue, another car pulled up. Mom and Dad. Mom practically fell out of the car, rushing to the door. Sweetheart, please. Please don't do this. I should have known, I muttered. He called you, didn't he? Please. Let's just talk, Dad said, trying to keep his voice calm. We're family. We can work this out. Work this out. I laughed, pointing at Jacob. Ask your perfect son where all that money went. Ask him what he did with my help. It wasn't like that, Jacob shouted, his voice cracking. Then tell them, I said, stepping back, folding my arms. Go ahead, tell them. He looked at Mom and Dad, his lips trembling. I had no choice. I was trying to make things better. I thought, if I won bigger. Oh my God, Mom whispered, her hands covering her mouth. Jacob, no. Not gambling. You knew about this. Dad rolled his eyes. Wild. I tried to stop. Jacob sobbed, falling to his knees. I thought he would keep helping me. I thought I could fix it before. But you didn't. I said, cutting him off. And now you're going to fix it my way. 2 weeks, $42, or I take you to court. Mom turned to me, her eyes wet. Please, he's your brother. You can't do this. You can't destroy him. No, Mom, I whispered, my voice steady. He destroyed himself. I'm just done being the one who pays the price. And I turned, walking back inside, slamming the door behind me. Their voices faded, muffled by the thick walls. Just echoes of a life I had finally left behind. But I didn't feel relief. Not yet. I wouldn't. Not until I saw every dollar returned. I sat on my quiet balcony, a warm mug of coffee in my hands, watching the pale light of dawn stretch across the city. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel suffocating. It felt peaceful. A month had passed since I had drawn the line, since I demanded my money back. Since I walked away, Jacob didn't pay immediately, of course. He tried everything, begging, threatening, using Mom and Dad to guilt me. But I didn't waver. He tried to deny everything, even with the bank statements and Kelly's testimony. But the threat of court was enough. In the end, he knew he had no choice. The first payment came in 2 weeks later. $10,000. Dad called me furious. You're tearing this family apart, he shouted. No, Dad, I had replied, calm but firm. I'm fixing it. Jacob scrambled to sell his car. Pawn his gadgets, even took out a loan. Anything to avoid a court case. Payment after payment. I watched the total shrink until finally, just 2 days ago, the final amount cleared $42,500. Every dollar I had wasted trying to save him. But I didn't feel victorious. Not really. Just free. My phone buzzed. A message from Kelly. Thank you again. The kids are adjusting. We're better now without him. I smiled. A real, genuine smile. Kelly had left Jacob for good. The divorce was final, and for once I didn't feel guilty. I felt proud. Then another message. This one from Mom. Please just talk to us. We miss you. I stared at it for a long moment. It was the same message she had sent a dozen times, always with the same desperate tone, always trying to pull me back. But I didn't reply. Not because I hated her. Not even because I hated Dad or Jacob, but because I loved myself enough to finally walk away. I had spent years believing that love meant sacrifice, that being a good son, a good brother meant giving until there was nothing left. But that wasn't love. That was self-destruction. The doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. I stood surprised and opened it. Uncle Rob stood there, a warm smile on his face. He was holding a small, neatly wrapped box. "Thought I'd drop by," he said. "You missed out on a lot of family dinners. Figured I'd bring you something." I laughed, stepping aside to let him in. "Just you, just me. You set the box on the table." I heard what happened. Not from them, of course, but I know how they are. "They'll never change," I murmured. Pouring 2 cups of coffee. "And that's not your problem anymore," he said, patting me on the shoulder. "You did right. You finally stood up for yourself." We sat, talked, and for the first time in so long, I felt like I wasn't alone. I told him everything. The years of sacrifices, the constant guilt, the final explosion. And he listened. Really listened. When he left, I found myself smiling again. The quiet didn't feel empty. It felt burnt. And as the sun climbed higher, bathing the city in gold, I realized something. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just free of their expectations. I was finally free to live.